I want to talk about critical race theory a little bit more. I have written a few blogs. I've done a video, I think, on it previously. And this morning I was on Facebook and having some conversations with some parents, and a few things came to my mind, and I wanted to share those with you today. The first post was from it's members of the community that have gotten together who are concerned about education. And the question that was asked was this, if you'll indulge me in just reading this. The person said, I recently asked my school district school board if they taught critical race theory or anything else close to it. No was the answer, but they do teach social emotional learning. Does anybody know more about this type of teaching, and is it good for kids? I'm searching more information. And this was a few days ago, and I responded with this. Hold on just a second here. Let me find it. I responded with this response. You need to ask every teacher and each school board member these questions. 1, do you believe in white privilege? 2, do you believe all whites are racist? And 3, do you believe that America is a systemically racist country? The answers to those questions will tell you if the basic attitudes behind CRT are being taught, not specifically as a formal curriculum, but informally by teachers. Now, this response that I gave was as a result of about 2 weeks ago. I responded. There was I don't know whether there's a new superintendent that was starting at a school in like Wisconsin or Minnesota or somewhere like that, or it was a governor's posting. I can't remember who the political leader was, or government leader, education leader. And she was talking about how they want to have, a lot more transparency and develop trust with the teachers again, and get through all the trauma that's been caused by COVID. And I commented on that thread that until school boards and superintendents and teachers are a lot more transparent about what they're teaching in the school, it's going to be difficult to develop trust. And one of the responses to my comment was a mocking of my comment that CRT is being taught in schools because as everyone knows, this person was saying, critical race theory is a graduate level theory. Children cannot understand it. And, it's just so silly to think that we are teaching that to our kids. They won't be able to understand it. And obviously my response to that is no, actually it's very elementary to teach guilt, white guilt, and, white oppression, and blacks being oppressed, or people of color being oppressed to a child. It's extremely easy to do that, and which is the basis of critical race theory. So to my reply that those 3 questions needed to be asked back on the first post I was mentioning, the author says, I'm still confused on why our educators think this is a good idea. What happened to the focus on academic excellence and the basics, reading, writing, and arithmetic? So this also kind of goes back to my interview I did with teacher Tom, where we had that little exchange about one of the reasons that I took my children out of school almost 25 years ago, was that the basis of CRT was being taught in my son's junior high, in his social studies curriculum that had been written with the elders of the indigenous tribe there. And it was all, that the whites had oppressed the natives there, which was true. This was a true thing. And I had no problem with that being taught, that there had been a history there that caused a lot of those Native Americans, many of whom were some of my dear friends, to have PTSD, to have destruction of their culture. There's no question that happened. I don't have a problem with that being taught. What I have a problem with is that at certain points during that year that they were learning all about this, that there was no, now let's come together. No, it was the white kids were having to write apology letters to the natives, even if they had nothing to do with it, even if they were not oppressing anymore, even if that was their best friend sitting next to them, which actually was the case with my son, who was best friends with a couple of the boys in that class who were natives, and there was no oppression going on there. But he was going to have to write apology letters to the other students in the class, and that's what I objected to. And so this exchange that I had with Teacher Tom was that we kind of disagreed what CRT was. I think fundamentally that's what our exchange was about, was that he saw CRT, and we kind of talked about it after we stopped recording the interview. In his life experience, he had been bused to poorer schools as part in North Carolina, I believe, or South Carolina, as a part of integration. And he learned, he had grown up in a middle class white neighborhood where he had learned some racial prejudice. But when he was bused to the school, he learned something very different. He became friends, and he felt like CRT was going to break down those barriers, CRT being taught in schools. And so I kind of learned from that, and I thought a lot more about it. And these exchanges that I want to share with you today kind of highlight that point, that critical race theory it means different things to different people, and that we don't always think through what is being said about it. So let me continue with this thread, and you can think about it. I said, so he was saying, why do educators think it's a good idea to teach this kind of thing, white privilege and so forth? And where did the academic focus go in our schools? And I said, Steve, I think it's just the indoctrination that teachers get in college. And then in all of the ongoing trainings that educators are required to receive over the years. So there's, when we started having anger management kinds of things and sensitivity training, this was laying the foundation for CRT, okay? Over the years, they embrace the idea of white privilege, and they are made to feel sorry for Black, Indigenous, people of color, individuals and groups, and they become guilty for being white, and they're trying to make it better. If you really believe that white skin is at the root of all society's problems, then you try to fix it because you really care. And no one is would ever accuse a teacher of not caring. It's the profession of being a professional educator is about caring. That's why you go into that profession. And I continued, honestly, when you look at it that way, it seems logical and the loving thing to do. The problem is that people don't take CRT to its logical conclusion, which is to strip whites of all power, dismantle all white entities, including law, religion, government, all of it, and give that power to BIPOC individuals and entities. Marginalize whites so they can't act on their inherent racism. This is what Kendi's book says. How to Be an Anti-Racist is his book, and he makes no bones about it. I just think most people want to feel they are doing something to equalize opportunity for BIPOC populations without thinking about it deeply or seeing how it's projecting all this negativity and division in our society. As far as academics, you can follow the line of reasoning that it isn't fair and equal for kids in the school system. Then why would you emphasize academics? Statistically, whites will continue to outperform BIPOC populations, so it just continues to solidify their power. According to Kendi, you can't criticize or even comment on the reasons that BIPOC kids underperform, which is due to lack of parental involvement, lack of fathers, drug and alcohol abuse, etc. And to assign reasons for lack of performance is racist in Kendi's theory. Therefore, why have schools teach academics? The logical conclusion is to teach only that which will debase whites and elevate BIPOC children. And he responds today that he says, I guess I have some catching up to do. This needs to be stopped. And I think the white guilt derangement is part of the problem. This is not teaching. but rather a very bad element of social engineering. The outcome is not a good one. That just goes to my point that not only are people not aware of what we're all in our own little worlds, right? We're all in our own bubbles, and people are not aware of what this theory even is, or why it's important, or what it's doing to kids in the public system. So, what do we do? What do we do about this? I think we just can't have enough conversations. We need to be talking about this all the time. We need to be making people aware that critical race theory is taking our country by storm. It is taken academia. It has taken big business. It's taken government. It's influencing the judicial system. I know here in Portland and in Seattle, we had, the Summer of Love in Seattle, and the zones where people couldn't go. We had, the Black Lives Matter protesting going on for over a year because it was racist to stop the destruction of an entire downtown, the destruction of federal buildings, the injury of thousands of police officers, some permanent. And it's really changing the whole attitude of society. It's becoming so pervasive in the media, in advertisements, everywhere you look, this is being played out. So we need to fight it, because slavery is something that happened. We know it happened. I grew up watching movies about it, reading books about it. These people with the 1619 Project act like, the way they talk, it's like it's been a big secret, for hundreds of years. And all of a sudden they are going to reveal to society that we had slavery once. And the story needs to be told. Well, the story has never stopped being told. It's never ceased to be told. And I am not saying more can't be told about it. Every generation needs to be educated about slavery. That has to happen. But I did not participate in it. Nobody in this day and age participated in it. And I am not going to assume guilt, a collective white guilt, and be called a racist. I do not believe somebody can reach into my head and into my heart and say what I'm thinking, what my subconscious is thinking, what my heart is feeling, and assign some meaning to every action that I take or every word that I say. It's antithetical to every logical, scientific, or human belief system. It's just ridiculous. And I'm sure I'll be talking a lot more about this. I have another stream I'd like to share with you on this later. So have a great day.